The Cathara had ruled the Outer Rim for 3 centuries, their massive forms and razor-sharp claws carving terror into the hearts of every species they encountered. Standing nearly 4 meters tall with midnight black fur and eyes like burning coals, they were the apex predators of known space. Their young, called cubs, despite weighing as much as a grown human, were just as deadly, born with instincts honed by millennia of evolution. Commander Zara's ship, the Defiant Hope, had crash-landed on Xarion 7 3 days ago. The distress beacon was damaged, her crew of 12 was dead, and she was alone on a planet that served as a Cathara hunting preserve. She'd managed to drag herself from the wreckage with a broken leg, 3 cracked ribs, and rapidly dwindling supplies. The first cub found her on the 2nd day. Zara had been attempting to repair her emergency transmitter when she heard the low growl behind her. She turned slowly, her sidearm already in hand, to face a creature that should have torn her apart without hesitation. The young Cathara stood barely 2 meters tall, its fur still carrying patches of the silver that marked adolescence. Its claws were fully extended, and its lips were pulled back to reveal teeth designed for rending flesh. But something was wrong. The cub was limping badly, favoring its left hind leg. A deep gash ran along its flank, and its breathing was labored. As Zara watched, the creature swayed and nearly collapsed. Every tactical manual, every survival guide, every piece of common sense told her to shoot. The Cathara showed no mercy. They were incapable of it. They hunted for sport, taking trophies from every species they encountered. Their cubs were raised on live prey, learning to kill before they could properly walk. But looking into those burning eyes, Zara saw something she'd never expected to find in a Cathara: pain, not just physical, but something deeper. Fear. She lowered her weapon. The cub collapsed moments later. Against every instinct screaming in her head, Zara approached. The wound was infected, green with alien bacteria, and the creature was burning, with fever. She used precious medical supplies from her kit to clean the injury, her hands shaking as she worked inches from jaws that could snap her in half. The cub didn't attack. It watched her with those coal-bright eyes, whimpering softly when she touched the infected areas. By evening, 2 more cubs had found them. These were smaller, likely siblings of the first. They approached cautiously, sniffing the air and growling low warnings. But when they saw their injured packmate, their aggression turned to confusion. Zara had fashioned a shelter from debris, with the wounded cub resting inside. She sat between them and their sibling, her weapon within reach but not raised. "I'm not going to hurt him," she said quietly, knowing they couldn't understand her words but hoping they might understand her tone. "I'm trying to help." The cubs circled her shelter throughout the night, but didn't attack. They brought strange, glowing fruits from the jungle, their version of food, Zara realized. When she didn't take them, one of the smaller cubs nudged a fruit toward the injured one. On the 3rd day, Zara's transmitter finally crackled to life. As she worked to boost the signal, she found herself talking to the cubs. The wounded one, she'd started calling him Scout, was responding to her voice, his ears perking up when she spoke. The other 2 had grown bolder, sometimes venturing within a few meters of her position. "You're not what they said you were," Zara murmured, checking Scout's bandages. The infection was clearing, and he was beginning to move around more. "They said you were monsters, but you're just kids." She was so focused on her work that she didn't hear the approaching footsteps until a shadow fell across her shelter. Zara looked up into the face of death itself. The adult Cathara stood nearly 4 meters tall, its massive frame blocking out the alien sun. Every inch of its body spoke of lethal purpose, from the scars that marked countless hunts to the bone trophies woven into its fur. Its eyes burned with an intelligence that was both ancient and utterly alien. This was a prime hunter, one of the Cathara elite. Zara could see the resemblance to Scout in its facial structure. This was their parent, returned from the hunt to find its cubs consorting with prey. Zara's hand moved instinctively toward her weapon, but she froze as the prime hunter's gaze shifted to the cubs. All three had moved to stand between Zara and their parent, their small forms tense but not backing down. Scout, still weak from his injuries, had positioned himself directly in front of her. The hunter's lips pulled back in what Zara first took for a snarl, but then she heard it, a low, rumbling sound that wasn't quite growling. The cubs responded immediately, rushing forward to nuzzle against the massive creature. The hunter's attention turned back to Zara, and she prepared to die. Instead, it did something that would be talked about in xenobiology circles for decades to come. It sat down. The massive predator lowered itself to the ground, bringing its eyes closer to Zara's level. Then, moving with careful deliberation, it extended one enormous claw and gently touched the bandages on Scout's flank. The cub pressed against its parent's touch, and the hunter made that rumbling sound again. Understanding crashed over Zara like a wave. The sound wasn't aggression, it was purring. The Kythera, apex predators of known space, could purr. The hunter rose and disappeared into the jungle, returning minutes later with something in its massive jaws. It dropped the object at Zara's feet, a piece of advanced communication equipment clearly salvaged from another crashed ship. "You want me to call for help," Zara whispered, staring at the device. "Not just for me, for all of us." The rescue ship arrived 6 hours later. The crew's shock at finding Zara alive was nothing compared to their amazement at seeing her surrounded by Kythera, not as prisoner, but as friend. When the time came to leave, Scout approached Zara one last time. The young Kythera pressed something into her hands, a small bone carving, intricate and beautiful. Not a trophy taken from prey, but a gift freely given. As the rescue ship lifted off, Zara watched the Kythera family through the viewport. The prime hunter stood with its cubs, watching the ship depart. Just before they disappeared from view, Zara could swear she saw the massive creature raise one claw in what looked remarkably like a farewell wave. The official report would say that Commander Zara survived on Xarion 7 by avoiding contact with the native predators, but she kept the bone carving, and sometimes late at night she would hold it and remember the sound of a monster purring, and the day she learned that even the fiercest beasts could choose compassion over conquest. In the end, perhaps that was the most human trait of all, the ability to see beyond fear and find connection in the most unlikely places.